By the way, I am on the Mac, have been primarily. I told Mallory yesterday that it looks like I'm spending more time on the Mac than I am on Windows unless I'm working. So it kind of inadvertently fell into place what I said I was going to try doing. And I've got mixed feelings about it. Like yesterday when I called you to say, hey, how do you get to the top of the file? Because it was a simple command that I should have known, but I was trying the Windows key command and it was not working.
That makes sense though, because the Mac is very different depending on where you are. Also, like inside of a text edit, text window, they're typing, is command up arrow, command down arrow to jump to the beginning or end. But then the voiceover command to jump to the end of a window, which doesn't always work inside of a text editing situation, is FN. That's probably why you kept hitting FN too, because you probably were thinking about hold on, I gotta. FN, VO keys, and then right arrow will jump you to like the end of a window or end of a section or something. But that doesn't always work in a text editing situation. So yeah, and then if you're on a list like in Finder or something, and you're arrowing up and down, it's option up arrow to jump to the top and option down arrow to jump to the end. So
my confusion going from Windows to Mac is understandable.
Exactly, it is as expected, Mike.
Yes.
It is as expected.
It's Demasi and Michael, just talking tech.
I want to throw out a thing before we get into it, just to any listeners who are Mac users that are expert level or have experience with anyone who's been able to do this. Me and Mike got into a conversation the other day because he was checking out Discord. He's like, oh yeah, they made some scripts for it was Doug. You said Doug made scripts for JAWS and Discord. And I know Doug's also made scripts that Mike has used for Slack.
And Teams.
And Teams on Windows. Yeah, that's actually how we got into that conversation. I was asking you about Teams because somebody I'm working with was thinking about trying out Teams, and I'm really hoping that they decide it's too expensive to go down that road because I don't frankly want to have to deal with it. I think I might just throw Slack out there as a thing. Like, we'll just try this Slack thing, man. But the conversation that me and Michael ended up having subsequently, because we can't just stop at one particular, hey, Mike, how do you do this? And then, okay, we'll talk to you later. No, that's not how these conversations tend to go most times. So chatting about the fact that it is quite easy, easy being a relative thing, but it's fairly common, I guess would be a better way of saying it. It is common to have someone like Doug Lee or someone else. I toyed around with JavaScript back in the days, long time ago. XP days, people, XP days. No, don't call me, can't help you. But to have someone write JavaScripts or to have a set of JavaScripts written to make a specific application on Windows more accessible and navigable, usable, with JAWS. And I think there's also some capabilities there for similar things with NVDA, whether it's through the add-ons mechanism. And I feel like there's something else you can do there too that I'm not remembering. But on the Mac, like, I don't have any knowledge whatsoever of a way to do a thing like that. It's like you have to fall back to the developers to solve the problem, or it doesn't get solved unless there's something obvious there that I'm missing.
AppleScript is the only thing I can think of, but you don't really have that flexibility to go find a specific element inside of an AppleScript as what you would with JAWS, for example.
Yeah, but see, AppleScript is also dependent upon the application that you're trying to fix or even automate, supporting AppleScript, right? Like if they don't support AppleScript, there's nothing you can do there. I did have a thought about like, well, VoiceOver, the Mac itself does support, scripting and automation with JavaScript. So maybe there's something there you could do. But I feel like that would be limited to a certain extent based on applications, right? They don't necessarily have to support that, I don't think. But I'm not a JavaScript expert, so I don't know. But I could imagine certain situations where you still couldn't retrieve objects and then present them to VoiceOver in a meaningful way, even through JavaScript. So just curious if anybody else has ideas or knows specifically of a way to, manually through user actions make something more accessible with VoiceOver on the Mac in a similar way that you can use JavaScripts on Windows.
Head on over to yourownpay.com/DM65 to figure out how to get a hold of us on social media, Twitter. You'll also find links to anything we mention in today's show.
Including Doug's scripts.
Yes. I will put a link to all of his scripts and then the ones that I'm specifically using in the show notes. There was something I was literally going to just throw out there and you were going to be like, oh, that was a good transition. And now I can't even remember. So it's
This is what happened. Transition derailed.
Yes.
Where did you want to go?
So what type of smart TV are you using, if any at all? Or do you just have an Apple TV or are you not using anything?
So we have a TV that is not a smart TV. At all, and it has an Apple TV plugged into it. I have avoided strenuously in any sort of smart TV because I didn't want to have to put it on the internet or basically deal with anything that didn't need to be on the internet. Like, why buy something? So I intentionally bought this television, is what I'm trying to say, without smarts in it. Now, this TV is also from like 2017, maybe late 2016 model. I don't remember who made it. But the next television I buy will be a smart TV simply because I'm going to buy a Samsung. Unless something changes, I'm going to most likely buy a Samsung because they have the talking menus.
So we're going to go down this path. And Tomasi has no clue where I'm going with this.
Nope.
Just to give everyone a heads up. On the Apple TV, remind me, how do you turn VoiceOver on and off?
Now, see, here's the thing. I don't know. Because
okay.
I think you triple click the home button on the remote, but I don't actually have one of the. So I do have a 4th generation Apple TV, the one with the App Store and all of that, but I don't actually have the remote anymore. So I always connect to the Apple TV and use the remote app on iOS. And the way that I turn VoiceOver on there is I just hold down the Siri button inside of the remote app and say, hey, turn on VoiceOver.
So apparently you can press the menu button 3 times. You can tell Siri to do it. But again, those depend on you having the remote. Or you can go to settings, accessibility, VoiceOver. On the Roku, because we have a Roku On TV made by Walmart. It's a 65-inch, I think. And how you turn on their voice access or whatever they call it, that's the first thing. All these smart TVs, and I'm going to complain, but let me start out by saying that I am thankful that we have the access that we do. But all these smart TVs and smart devices call their accessibility features something different. And on the Roku TV, how you do it is you hit the options button, which is on, there's a 4-way D-pad that you can press up, down, left, right, or OK. And then there's a row of buttons directly below that. On the right side of that button row, you slowly tap that 4 times. So you hit options. Don't do it too fast or it won't register. Well, right there's 2 totally different ways of activating screen access.
Wait a minute.
And
hold on. Wait a minute. So don't do it too fast or it won't. What kind of remote doesn't let you fast press buttons?
I think it may be the processor in the TV and the remotes go, because you can press it pretty fast, but so
I'm sorry, I have completely derailed you. Let's get back to
No, it's fine. I got to go down this path. You can hear a little noise when you press it. It's like I'm not going to attempt to make the noise, but you hear it. If you press it too fast, then you only hear the noise 3 times, but you want to hear it 4 times. So that's how you do it with Roku. And we talked about how you do it with Apple TV. We also have a Fire TV Cube thingy. I forget exactly what they're called. And on that one, you hold 2 buttons down for 3 seconds. Again, towards the top of the remote. I don't remember the exact ones, but you hold those buttons down for 3 seconds. Okay, that's 3 different ways to access screen reading features. In Samsung TVs, I don't remember how you do it, but one of the buttons you press 3 times. So that's different ways to access screen reading technology, which is fine because we have access to it. But for someone who has no experience, like that's really convoluted. And in an ideal world, we would have something, press the power button 6 times, and that'll turn on assistive technology on any device that you have. Unfortunately, we're not there. And I was talking on Kellyco today about The Last of Us Part 2 from a blind user's point of view who isn't a gamer. And they asked me, one of the questions was, how accessible is it? And I'm like, well, once you get into the game, it's pretty accessible. But getting into the game can be its own challenge. Because PlayStation 4 does not have a unified way of enabling their text-to-speech features. You have to go into settings, go down to accessibility, go to text-to-speech, and turn it on. Benjamin put it on the quick access menu, but I didn't remember how to get there. So just kind of, I was thinking about it earlier today. I'm like, man, that's a very convoluted process to try to figure out, okay, I have to push these buttons to turn my TV on so I can use it. And then I have to go to this input. And then I have to remember to press up and right until I get to the end of it and down. And, it's amazing what we have, but I think it's like in a transition period to where at some point I'll be able to go to the PlayStation, hold R2 and say, turn TTS on or something. And maybe that experience is better in the PS5. I haven't played with it, but... yeah.
So this does highlight a thing that I have had in conversation with people. I don't think it's ever come up on our show, but I've definitely had this conversation with people over the years, which is there is no, and for me, it started simply if you had a individual who switched from iOS to Android. Now the way to turn on TalkBack, I think, is more stable, but there was one point in time, depending on the device that you had, even, the manufacturer, I'll say, determine how you were to turn on the TalkBack features from the beginning. And in early days, like I remember, you better get them to do it when you buy your phone in Verizon, because if you get home and decide you want to power it up, well, you're going to be pretty much stuck.
Drawing a perfect square on the startup screen.
Man, I have forgotten that one. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Here's the way to deal with this. And look, no insult meant to anyone, right? But let's be honest, sighted people, is difficult for them to draw a perfect square if they can't see the line that they're drawing. If they're just drawing it in free space, it is very difficult if there's no line to look at to connect it back up to. Asking a blind person with a touchscreen phone to draw a perfect square to turn on TalkBack is just absolutely asinine. I was so upset about it. I can't believe I forgot about that one.
I do like the way you do it now, though. Just hold the volume up down for 3 seconds, pretty much anywhere you're in the operating system, I believe, if I remember right.
Yeah, and that is much more palatable, right? Because and look, I gave Google except for that square thing. I do remember being a little relentless about that at the time. Now, but I gave Google leeway, and I mean that in the sense of like I tried to be understanding of what the issues were that they had to face with creating a unified way of turning on TalkBack for a device. First, they had to incorporate TalkBack to be automatically installed, because remember back in the days, way back in the early days, you had to go to the Play Store and download it. Which meant you're in the phone store buying your new Android phone, and you have to give the customer service person, if you didn't have a sighted person with you that was a family member, friend, etc., but you're just in the store because you got somebody in a cab to drop you off at the store so you go get this new phone, and you're in the store and you're giving the customer service rep your password to log into Google, your Gmail account, so that you can access the Play Store and download TalkBack and then have them turn it on. And then you frantically hurry and get home as fast as possible, log into your computer and change your Gmail password, which you promptly forget the next time you need to use it.
Sounds like someone has some experience with this.
Man. But I tried to be understanding of what they had, because let's be fair, like Google could not at any given point guarantee. Now, I don't understand why it took so long to get to the volume buttons being a thing, but you couldn't guarantee that a phone was going to have a quote unquote home button, like physical button that you could click 3 times. Some phones had them, some phones didn't. You couldn't lock up the system gestures that people use to reset their phones, involving the power button and the volume button to do stuff to bring it up, because people will accidentally get themselves into trouble, end up wiping their device or something. So it's great that they finally got there. I honestly think that it took a internal shift within Google to focus more on accessibility before we got the universal gesture that should work everywhere, or button press that should work everywhere, because every phone has to have volume buttons, right? Well, no, as soon as I say that, as soon as this episode drops, somebody's going to release a new phone in 2021 that does not have physical volume buttons.
Yep,
you swipe up the side and swipe down the side in order to adjust your volume.
Or the lock button. Because, why not triple click the lock button? That could have been something. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. My point between bringing all this up is thank you to manufacturers for making things accessible for the most part. But think about the little things. How hard is it for someone to turn this feature on, even though it's going to assist them with being able to use your device and have a better experience? Are they going to easily be able to enable the feature so that they can go to the store and download this game? And that's not getting me started on the times that you hear text-to-speech is unavailable in this window, or text-to-speech is unavailable right here. Well, then why?
Man, oh man. See, that brings back nightmares of Kindle. I remember when the Kindle first was released with text-to-speech, and everybody's like, oh, this is awesome. What great news. Well, not everybody. So the press was heralding the, what is
innovations that Amazon.
There you go. They were heralding the innovations of Amazon making the Kindle accessible to people with visual impairments and also people with reading disabilities in general. Just anyone with a print disability, right? I like that term, coined by the American Printing House for the Blind, I believe. Or the Library of Congress, whatever.
I was going to say either them or NOS.
Yeah, one of them. But the thing that was very quickly discovered by the blind community and slowly picked up by the press, I think, is the fact that Amazon, first off, the text-to-speech was horrible. It was truly horrible, horrendous. I don't even think you could adjust the speed in the first version. But the other thing that was, to me, somewhat unconscionable from an Amazon standpoint, and I probably do mean this to sound the way that it sounds, although I don't really mean to be defamatory to anyone at all.
Right.
I would have expected something like that I would have expected the overall outcome of that from someone like the Nook, or what was the other one that was out that was used to be a competitor, the Cobalt Reader or something. I would expect it from some fly-by-night e-reader. Barnes and Nobles with their Nook, and I can't remember the other company that Amazon also put out of business. That was a bookstore and had ebooks. But the point of what Amazon did is that, okay, there's text-to-speech in the Kindle. Never mind that you can't adjust the speed, blah, blah, blah. Amazon left it completely up to the publisher of their ebooks in the Kindle store as to whether or not to have text and speech enabled inside of their book. So what did all of the people from the publishing places do? They turned it off. Now, the reason I found it unconscionable that Amazon did this or allowed this is because, one, Amazon was obviously, has been and continues to be obviously the biggest provider and seller of ebooks.
Yeah.
Secondly, if Amazon understood enough to take a stab at trying to put text-to-speech in the Kindle in the first place, then it means that they had a grasp of the need and the reason that needed to exist. Now, communicating this to publishers would have been fairly easy, right? Whether it's a form letter sent out by their marketing people that says, hey, this feature is being, turned on. You don't have a way to opt out of it unless you can, write us a letter really explaining to us why you don't want your book to be accessible to a person with a print disability, right? This would have been very simple and straightforward for them to do. Could have been a conversation between the higher ups at the different companies, Jeff Bezos or whoever is having lunch with the guy from Penguin Random House or whatever, and he's like, well, look, can you tell me why you're making us use this text to speech? There's piracy. It's like, yeah, but dude, nobody's going to actually sit there with a fucking tape recorder and record your book being read out by some slow ass text to speech. Like, what are you concerned about? What is the problem here? And that was my problem with that situation. I, like you, agree with that. I wish that first of all, I think we as blind people need to figure out a standard that we would like to see, because everybody has their own opinion. Everybody agrees that there should be a very simple, straightforward way for any device that supports text to speech, when using it and navigating it, to have a unified way of turning it on. Turning on the text to speech. No group of blind people. You get 10 blind people in the room, you're going to get 25 different opinions on how it should be done.
Yep.
And everybody has their reasons why it should be done that way.
Demasi, you've been trying an experiment out, and I'm kind of curious, as of the time of recording this, how that experiment is going. I think you've been on Fast Mail for a week now. Now, what is Fast Mail, and why are you trying it, and how's it going?
So Fast Mail is a email provider, much like your Gmails and your Outlooks and Yahoos of the world. Please don't use Yahoo for mail, okay?
I cringe every time someone gives me a Yahoo email at work.
You too? Oh, man. I mean, really, like, sometimes I just want to just go set them up an account and send them login information. Like, man, please. Just please. Here, I even migrated your mail over for you because your password from Yahoo is in this data breach. That aside, though, Fastmail is I would say premium email provider, because they don't provide any sort of free services whatsoever. It is a paid service. They also provide calendars and contacts, in some amount, depending on the plan that you happen to be on, some amount of web storage. I haven't really delved into their web storage because it's weird, and they want you to use WebDAV to connect to it, and I don't have time for that. And also doesn't let me share stuff, so whatever. Anyhow, they are a premium email provider. Their biggest focus for them has been, from the time that they have existed, is a focus on privacy. They don't sell your information. They have no inclination to market to you, build profiles on you, etc., etc. All of the things that people accuse, and rightfully so, accuse Gmail, explicitly at gmail.com email accounts, free Google accounts, if you will, of doing, right? Now, Google is upfront about this, but their point with Fastmail is that, they are a privacy first company. Your email belongs to you. We're not scanning your email for blah, blah, blah. All of those things, right? They're completely anti-Google, if you want to look at it that way. Fastmail offers a couple of different levels of plans. Their cheapest is $3 a month. That will give you hosted email. You have to go look at the features. Link will be in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM65 to their plans page, so you can take a look at what all you get there. But their $3 a month plan, as of the time of recording, is $3. Does only give you a fastmail.com email, or some fastmail email, because you can pick different extensions. You can pick fastmail.com, .net, .ca if you're in Canada, etc., etc. But you don't get your own custom domain. For $5 a month minimum, you do get to use your own custom domain. I switched over to Fastmail. There's a couple of higher plans. I also offer business plans for anybody interested. Again, link will be in the show notes, so you can check all of those things out for yourself if you're interested. Now, I've heard about Fastmail for a couple of years. I cannot remember the first person that I heard about Fastmail from. I do believe it was a podcaster. I sort of want to say it was Josh the Lion Court from Accessibility, but I probably have that wrong. Shout out Josh. I ain't listened to that podcast in a long time.
Right, I was just thinking, man, I should add that to Castro, because it's still around.
Yeah.
Shelly's on it, I think.
But whomever I first heard about it from, I've heard about it from other people over the years. And I've taken a look at them here and there. I, of course, signed up for Google Apps when it was Google Apps, back in like 2010, 2011, because I wanted the Google stuff. Wasn't really interested in Fastmail or anything like that. So over the years, for me, for people, for listeners who don't know or haven't listened to prior episodes where I talk about some of the type of customer work I do, I help people set up their infrastructure. So for their business. So in a lot of ways, that also includes setting up email service, because a lot of people come in, they register a domain for their website, and then they go around using their Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo address for communications. I have for the longest time steered people at G Suite / what is it today? Google Workspace at the time that we're recording. I feel like we have to throw that caveat in every time. Like at the time of
Especially
recording,
when mentioning something that Google's doing.
Right. That's what I mean. At the time of recording, it's called Google Workspace. They may change the name again. But I have recommended that to people simply because I know most people have a Gmail account. So the interface of G Suite is not all that difficult to deal with. It's basically Gmail just branded for your company. The admin area is a whole different area, but that's a different conversation for a different time. However, getting to their mail is straightforward because they've already used Gmail itself. So they know how all that stuff works in most cases. Now, I also have people who I have recommended Fastmail to, because I did use Fastmail about 5 years ago for about 6 months for my family email. I migrated away from that because people were annoying me because they didn't log in and create app passwords and a whole bunch of other stuff that was getting on my nerves. And frankly, nobody was actually really using the custom family domain email anyway. So why was I paying for it? But I have recommended Fastmail because they're already a decent service. Now, a couple of things about Fastmail that are different, depending on how you set up your G Suite account or your Google account even. Fastmail requires you to create a app-specific password for any application that you want to connect to your Fastmail account. So whether that's Mail on the Mac, Mail on the iPhone, Mail on Windows, whatever, calendars on even Thunderbird, they want you to put in a app-specific password. This is required whether or not you have two-factor on Fastmail. Whereas with Google accounts, I don't think they force you to do that unless you have two-factor turned on. I have two-factor turned on so long on Google, I don't really know what it looks like without two-factor. But that being said, that can be a pain if you don't plan out for it. What I decided to do, because number one, just full disclosure on the show, actually. So one, it will probably be a referral link in the show notes to Fastmail, because I am everybody that has a Fastmail account gets a referral link, and they just give you credit towards your account. They don't actually give me physical money. But click on it, check it out, or just Google Fastmail if you don't want to use the referral link. The other disclosure I need to make is that I am a Fastmail reseller. So I have the ability to resell service, email service that is provided by Fastmail to customers. I have some customers that have paid me for Fastmail email access. It's a pretty nice program, not even difficult to really get into. But with that being said, I just want to make sure that is clear to people. Now, I have had a Fastmail account since I went back around and said I want to become a reseller, because one, G Suite reselling is difficult to get into. For me, at least, because I don't refer that many people to G Suite. And two, because I have noticed a bit of a kind of pushback against Google from a lot of different directions over the past couple of years. So I felt Fastmail will be a good path to follow down just to explore this and see how this goes, because not everybody needs G Suite. The other thing that kind of contributed to me going back to Fastmail for a reseller position is that a lot of people pay for G Suite and then they're not using the functionality of G Suite. They're just using the mail. And granted, it's Gmail to them and it's familiar, but they're paying for things that they're not using. And in addition, they're also potentially leaving themselves vulnerable to things that they're not using. Like you have things activated in your account, or possibly, pending activation or whatever in your G Suite account that you haven't dealt with. That being said, what I started to do about a week ago at the time of recording was I moved all of my email. I had an email account set up in Fastmail. Obviously, to be a reseller, I had to have one. But it was on a domain that I didn't get a ton of email at. And what I decided to do was to go all the way in on Fastmail. So I moved all of my email over from G Suite into Fastmail, which was a pretty straightforward process. Anybody has this ability. If you go sign up for Fastmail, they have an import section. And they even give you the typical accounts, including Yahoo. So whether it's a Google or G Suite account, Office 365, Outlook, Hotmail, Yahoo. And with G Suite, at least for me, or with Google, this work, whether it's a G Suite paid or free Google account, you click the link for Google, and it takes you through the typical, what everybody's probably used to at this point, authentication flow. Where you go over to Google, you log in, you say, yes, I give Fastmail permission to do blah, blah, blah. Those things are to import your mail, import your contacts, import your calendars. Now, you select checkboxes within the Fastmail interface as to what you want it to import. Do you want it to import all of your mail? Do you want it to import contacts? Do you want it to get your calendars? The interesting thing with Fastmail and Google accounts, don't know if this applies to any other accounts, is that it will actually pull in all your emails, sync all that over, and continue to check your Google account if you wanted to do so for email. It will also allow you to sync your calendar. So instead of just grabbing your calendar data and pulling it into a Fastmail calendar, it will keep your Google calendar and your Fastmail calendar in sync, which means if you add something to your Fastmail calendar, that if you add something to the same calendar that you use in G Suite, so for me, example, this calendar is called personal. If I add something to personal from Fastmail, from a Fastmail account, that automatically shows up on my Google calendar called personal, and vice versa. So if I add it in Google, it automatically shows up on Fastmail. The handy thing about this is that there are a lot more services I know about that will connect to Google Calendar.
Yep.
Which means, so long as I have that calendar available, I can, have data pushed into my calendar and not have to be signed into Google if I don't want to. But once the import is done, all my mail was there. I moved all of my primary domains that I use for actual email over to Fastmail, which was a seamless process for me. Be careful doing this if you don't know DNS. They do give you pretty good instructions, but you should still know what you're doing. But now all of my mail is in Fastmail. So when I open up mail on the Mac, iPhone,
that was going to be one of my next questions is, do you have to use a Fastmail app to access your mail?
You don't have to use there is a Fastmail app. So there's a Fastmail app for iOS and for Android, but you do not have to use the Fastmail app. If you are, I believe, and I'm going to throw out a huge asterisk here because I'm not 100% certain. I think if you're only on the $3 a month plan, so the plan that does not allow you to use your own custom domain, I think those accounts are restricted to have to use the Fastmail app or use the web interface if you're on a computer, on a desktop operating system. But for any account that has the ability to add their own custom domains, you have the ability to also sync over IMAP. Everything is done over IMAP or POP. I think they still do POP. Don't do POP, people, unless you have a really good reason. Just go with IMAP. Keeps everything in sync. It's nice. It's nicer that way.
So are you going to be using Fastmail for the foreseeable future, do you think?
That I don't know. I'm liking it so far. Just anecdotally, because I haven't done any sort of real testing. I don't even know how to actually test this. But my mail seems to pop up faster. So an example of that experience is I was registering for a new account online, and most people send you, the verification. Please verify your email address, right? I had literally just hit the button in Chrome that says, create account or whatever. And like within literally seconds, the page hadn't finished refreshing on the new screen, in Chrome, and I heard my mail go ding, and there was the email. Now, this could have just been a timing thing, honestly.
Right.
It could have just been timing.
It seems more snappy, is what you're saying.
Yes, it does. I've noticed the same. I've noticed a similar experience with mail on the phone, where when I open up mail on the phone, it doesn't seem to take as long, for the little bar down there to say checking for new mail or whatever. Like, it's checking for new mail. Okay, done. All your new mail is here. So it does seem to be a little bit faster in delivering mail. Again, this could be just an anecdotal thing.
Yeah.
Could be a placebo. could be the fact that at the time we're recording this, Google is apparently having Gmail problems. But I am balancing this experience against literally years of me using G Suite, right? And knowing what 2020 of using G Suite Mail has been like, and how long I have to sit there in the Mail app on iOS most times to wait for it to reload. But I don't know if I'm going to continue using it for the foreseeable future. I do want to see where the pain points are, because before I really get on a big push of recommending it and really selling it to customers in the future, I want to make sure that I know where all of the little, pain points are. What does it do well? Where does it fall down at as a service? So far, I'm pretty satisfied. I don't have any major complaints. Their web interface could be a little simpler to navigate, but it's not clunky. It's just, I think, just interaction issues, right? Screen reader focus moving occasionally, which is nothing new in the web world. So that is some feedback that I will be passing to them about their web interface. But from my perspective, like after I got everything set up, I'm pretty much good. Again, the reason I tried this is because I really want to kind of get a feel for what it's like, right? Because I feel like there are going to be a lot more people looking to go to a different service. It is a different alternative to your larger companies like Google. Like, I don't have a problem with Google for anybody listening. Like, I'm not, jump ship on Google. One thing that pushed me into this also is the change from G Suite to Google Workspace. Not because it changed their name, but because they changed their pricing structure and what you get for a particular price. Where I'm sitting at right now with G Suite for Business, my account would cost me an extra $6 a month to keep exactly what I have right now. Like basically the same features and functionality that I have right now. Storage space is the big thing. Just to put a point on it, like the storage space would cost me an extra $6 a month, over what I'm currently paying right now. So that was the impetus. Now, will I ever completely abandon Google altogether? That I can categorically say probably not, because it's too useful for a lot of things. But if Fastmail continues to be a service that I want to use in the future going forward, then it does free me up for some different options with Google. Like, I do need to hold on to Drive because I don't want to go back to Dropbox at all. The Drive file stream app on the Mac has treated me better in a couple of years that I've been using it than I think Dropbox ever treated me on the Mac. So that is one primary reason. I do like to share drives in the way that is very set up, very nice for sharing and inviting people onto folders and etc. So, but I do now have more options if Fastmail is a viable alternative, because I could completely change the structure of my payments to Google based off the features that I actually need from Google. If it's just storage space, I could just pay them for storage space.
Right. So that is Demasi's experience with Fastmail, and it's been an adventure for sure. It sounds like.
It was actually to be honest, like this was super straightforward. Like, I have moved mail for a couple of people a few times, like from one service to another, like from their hosting company to G Suite, or whatever. And that shit can be painful. You have to use a command line tool called MailSync, IMAP sync, right? For a lot of this, like, it gets painful. This process has been pretty straightforward. I really do like the way that they allow you to just connect direct to Google and pull your stuff in and keep everything in sync. So, like, I turned this off because I moved my primary Google domain to point to Fastmail. If Michael wanted to, or anybody else for that matter, wanted to experiment with Fastmail, you can have it pull in all your mail from your current account, Google especially. I would imagine this probably works the same way with Microsoft Mail, maybe the others. But instead of shutting down your old email account, all your mail still continues to go there, but Fastmail is in the background checking it over our IMAP connection and just sucking it in as it appears, right? Same thing with the calendar thing. The only thing it does not keep in sync is your contacts. So if you import your contacts, those are not going to stay in sync. You start adding new contacts in Fastmail, they will not show up anywhere else. But I found it pretty nice. I have found it pretty nice. Feature wise, there's parity. Like I have aliases. You don't have to do the weird thing that you have to do with Google. So we should explain the plus trick for people that don't know about it.
Yes. So I will give my explanation of it, and you fill in the blanks because you probably understand it more. For me, for example, my email address is michael@yourownpay.com. And let's say that I'm using, I don't know, eBay or something. I could use Michael plus eBay@yourownpay.com. Is that correct? And it would still go to my inbox, but it would look like a different email address to the system that I'm registering for. So a person can quickly create different email addresses associated with something, with a service itself. Now, can you block that plus eBay? Do you know, or
you could?
You would just filter it out.
So yeah, that's what you. I mean, I guess maybe you could just say drop any. Yeah, you would have to basically create a filter in Gmail or Google that says any email sent to this address, just delete it. Send it straight to trash or whatever. That would be the filter rule. But the reason that you would do this is for that reason, is that so that you can filter. So I usually use some version of the site's name when I'm signing up for a new service that I know is going to send me a bunch of mail, but I want the thing they're trying to give me right now. I want that, but I don't want to probably deal with all your crap mail.
Mm-hmm. You can do this with a regular Gmail account too, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did good deal. Yeah, it's not a G Suite restricted feature. It actually works with Gmail. I discovered it when using Gmail, and then have just continued to use it with G Suite. Fastmail support these. Now, here's the difference for people who are G Suite customers, and I implore you that if you know that I'm absolutely wrong about what I'm finna say, once I say it, go to yourownpay.com/DM65 if you're new and figure out how to get in touch and let me know, hey, you're wrong. I don't think I'm wrong because I've been doing this for too long. So obviously with a gmail.com account, you only have your one username. So if your name is Damasi, if you have Damasi@gmail.com, hit me up because I would like to get that email address. But if that is your email address, you can only use Damasi plus something @gmail.com, right? Now, as a G Suite customer, you have your own domain. You can make aliases of your address. So Michael has michael@yourownpay.com. Michael could also make podcast@yourownpay.com. I don't think that exists, so don't email it because it's going to bounce.
Yep.
But he could make that as an alias address, not an entirely new user, but just an alias address for his email. And again, he could use that to filter, or he could just use it in specific places where he's like, this is the email address I want people to email me about for this. Now, grand, right? Mike has michael@yourownpay.com as his main email address, and he has podcasting@yourownpay.com for a, publication address. Like, it's how you get in touch with me, talk to me about podcasting. Mike could still do the plus trick with podcasting. So he could say podcasting plus podcast deals @yourownpay.com, for example, for the newsletter that comes from the podcast deals people.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. What Mike cannot do is make up a random address @mike@yourownpay.com and have email sent into his inbox without going through a lot more configuration deep down inside of the admin area than most people are going to know how to do.
Or want to do, for that matter. Yeah. Fastmail
makes this very simple. The buttons are right there as you're setting up your domain. It is very easy to just go back to domains and edit domain and change these settings. But you can say use plus addressing, where anything sent to mydomain.com forward to this person, or sent to this, anything plus anything sent here, or anything at this domain sent there, etc., etc. What it removes the need for, I'm explaining the options very badly, but what it removes the need for is, for example, if Mike was on Fastmail and he wanted to use podcast@yourownpay.com, well, in the G Suite world, he would either have actually had to go in and set up his incoming mail rules to say anything sent to, have a catch-all address, basically. Anything sent to a random address @yourownpay.com, just send it to Michael@yourownpay.com. He will have to go do that. easy to find that feature or that setting and set it up in G Suite. In Fastmail, if Mike just sticks with defaults when he adds his domain to Fastmail, he doesn't have to do anything. He could throw out any random email address he wants to in the world that ends in @yourownpay, and Mike would get it.
Is there, because I see a problem with that. So if someone knew your domain that you're using for Fastmail, they could go create a random letters and numbers and start spamming you and you wouldn't even know it. Or I guess that's not really much different than someone just putting in your email address into a form.
Seems like a lot of headache.
Yeah.
For nothing. You can also optionally, if that is a big concern, like you could optionally just say, if it doesn't match any known user here, or it's not an alias of a user here, just drop it. Right. Like you could do that, which is what Google does by default. But whether or not you think send anything to anything and have it come into this address is a good idea or not. The options are, I think, very straightforward, very well explained within the interface, despite my bungling of explaining what the different options are. And they're right there as you're setting up the domain. You don't have to go digging through an admin interface to find them, which has always annoyed me with Google, because every time I need to do it, I have to basically go read the support document to remember how to get there. But that's my experience with Fastmail thus far. I'm liking it. I am going to try to stick with it, barring me running into a major issue somewhere, for at least 3 months, just to get a full feel for it. And I will make a decision about what to do after that. I may stick with it for the long term and do something else with Google, or I may run back to G Suite. I personally am looking for a possible alternative to Google Drive. Not that I'm necessarily going to move away from Google Drive, but I would like to know another option that's not Dropbox.
iCloud.
Yeah.
Have you done anything with iCloud sharing for folders?
A little bit. It's mostly with people who don't do very much, so I don't end up moving a lot of files around between me and them because they don't really do shit. So not as much as I would like.
Yeah.
That has occurred to me because I do know that the only problem is if you're working with somebody that's on Android, not everybody knows about that little app I found, which I can't remember the name of. Or I would actually mention it in the official show and then link to it, but I don't remember the name of it. But it looked like it worked.
Right.
To sync your iCloud crap over there. And honestly, I think there's not a whole bunch of people who know that there's an iCloud control panel for Windows that will give you access to Drive.
Quick security note that I need to throw in there because I got it from bartb.ie. Actually, it was from the NosillaCast. If you are using the control panel for iCloud, update it because there was a security patch recently published. And if you haven't updated it and you're hearing this now, that security patch was published 6 weeks ago. So please get it done.
Get on top of that ASAP.
Yeah.
Seriously.
As I was making that security announcement, I was thinking, I'm like, man, they better have updated it by now because that's a bit old.
Yeah, but look, man, I mean, companies get hacked all the time because they didn't update something that there was a patch clearly available for like 6 months ago.
Yeah, no names to be mentioned here. So I'm going to be playing with Android a little bit. I am super happy with the Apple Watch ecosystem with the iPhone. I honestly might end up selling my semi-broken iPhone on eBay because people will pay for it because they think they can fix it, and then drop that the money from that towards, I'm thinking an 11 is what I'm really going to end up going with for my primary driver. Gives me a lot of the newer features. I want Face ID. A lot of blind people do not. I do. It's one of the things I kind of miss. And it gives me a decent battery, and I save money versus going right for the 12 is my initial thoughts on that. Although a 12 would be nice. And if I got, more than half of the cost of a 12 up for my phone off of eBay, then maybe I would think about it. But right this second, that's my potential plans. Got to get this holiday done. Should be done by the time you're hearing this. It better be done by the time you're hearing this.
It's like, man, if you're still on holiday shit by the time people hear this, man, something went horribly wrong.
Yes. So maybe I'll have a new phone then. But the other thing that's really got me, hesitating on getting a new phone is right now my phone is kind of working like it's supposed to, kind of for the most part. But a M1 Mac that I'm interested in too, especially when yesterday I was doing something in Finder and I got the busy. And I'm like, I'm just trying to browse my fucking files. Like, why are you
Ain't
busy?
that the worst? It's like, I don't even understand why this is happening right now. Like,
Yeah.
what could you possibly be doing that would cause you to be busy? I have no idea.
So you've gotten that before too?
Yes. And here's the thing. So before anybody actually writes in that here's this, so for me, at least in the Finder, I have my Finder on Mac OS set to list mode. Which means there should not be any preview. And I've turned off everything possible setting in Finder that says preview this, show a preview of that, etc., etc., etc. So you shouldn't be trying to render a thumbnail image of the file. You shouldn't be that shouldn't be taxing when I'm just scrolling through a list of files. I'm not in icon view, so I'm not in cover flow or whatever it's called now with the none of that, right? I'm just in list mode, not even column mode. I'm in list mode. Yeah, I don't get it.
But so a technology upgrade in the not too distant future from when you hear this will be likely in my life. Probably, if we're being honest, it'll be a new phone, unless I get the Pixel up and running and then I do the family sharing with my Apple Watch from my iPhone 10, because that is something I could do, and then I play with that and that experience isn't horrible, then maybe that'll be what I do. But web browsing.
Web browsing, people. Oh, that's what my topic was. The fucking browsers. All right. You got about 10 minutes for this. 10, 15 minutes.
For what?
We can. I just want to go on have this discussion basically, because I don't even want to rant about it, but have a discussion about the web browsers, because it's disturbing to me that so much stuff is being built explicitly for Chrome, right? Like it doesn't even work in Firefox or Safari. I know why some stuff doesn't work in Safari, but you like Chrome is basically taking over the world at this point.
It has, but I think it's because of the Chromium engine, not specifically Chrome, and the Chromium engine driving most of the browsers. Edge, what's that other secure one that I can't think of off the top of my head?
Brave?
Yeah, Brave.
The ones who were rerouting you to dropping in their affiliate codes on the end of links that you went to? Those guys?
Yep, those guys that are supposedly secure. And there's a lot of other browsers that are based on the Chromium infrastructure, but still, I've encountered what you're saying as well, that this was built with Chrome in mind, you must be running Chrome, and not all the time do I want to be running Chrome, especially when I'm on the iPhone.
My problem with it is a couple of things. So we've already been here, internet people on the internet. We've been here already with IE. Remember IE?
Yeah.
Remember how whenever you wrote a web page, especially you web developer people, right? Remember when you had to make it work with IE? I don't even care if you was on a Mac. You would have to spin up Windows into a virtual machine so you could test your website against IE. Because if it didn't work, it didn't work. And it may as well not exist. Right? Remember this? We're back here again with Chrome. Mm-hmm. Granted, I somewhat agree with what Michael is saying about the fact that Chromium, the underlying engine Chromium, is what is pushing everything. So like you said, Edge and Brave and possibly Opera, maybe, if anybody uses that. Here's the problem for me, though. Things are being explicitly designed for Chrome and Chrome alone. Now, I'm not talking about extensions or what does Chrome call them? Are they still extensions?
Yeah, they're still extensions.
Yeah. Like that's one thing, right? Some things are gonna work on, but when I get a website that only works in Chrome or a feature that only works in Chrome, it's starting to annoy me because, like Mike said, I don't always want to have to be in Chrome. Now, some of this is Apple's fault, because they tend to have to tweak the web standard just a little bit to their specifications, which makes it non-compliant for everybody else, and most people don't want to do the additional work for Safari. But that, to me, lies the problem. We only have, at this point right now, there's probably some that I don't know about, haven't heard of them. They really don't matter, okay? Unless you live in a country where they're big, they don't matter. We have 3 primary web browser engines that exist. There's Chromium, which has the biggest share of the market. And that's not even counting Edge. That's just Chrome by itself, honestly, has the biggest, like a runaway margin at this point for lead browser. You throw in stuff that is Chromium based like Edge and like Brave, and those numbers just go up even higher. That percentage goes up even higher. But we have Chromium, the engine, that powers all of these browsers. We have WebKit, which powers Safari. The only reason WebKit is even in the argument for any kind of grasp of or percentage of usage is because of iPhone, mobile, iPad, and iPhone. That's because everybody has to use WebKit on iOS or iPad OS. But you have Chromium, you have WebKit, and you have, I'm going to say Mozilla because I don't think they call it Gecko anymore, as it used to be called. And I don't know what it's called right now at the moment.
Right.
But Firefox, which has its own web rendering engine. Now, shout out to the Firefox people too. Like they are, I'm going to drop a link in the show notes that I found today as we're recording that will probably have updated information by the time this episode releases. But they have a Marco Z. I saw it on Twitter. Has a link to a wiki page where they're continually adding the features that they have improved on, are working on, et cetera, with accessibility for Firefox on the Mac. So big shout out to Firefox for finally getting there on the Mac. They're not 100% all the way there yet, but finally the attention is being paid to it. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. So we have 3 engines. We have Chromium, we have WebKit, which is Safari, and we have Firefox's thing. They used to be called Gecko, which is kind of cool. My concern is that we're going to find ourselves in a situation where and this is really it's a concern generally, but I'm also concerned as a blind person, which is why I'm so happy that Mozilla is now finally starting to focus on accessibility on the Mac. I do not like the seeming trend of let's build everything to work on Chrome because everybody uses Chrome. Well, the reason they're using Chrome is you get into a chicken and egg situation first, right? Like you end up in a chicken and egg situation. Source Connect now, which we have used in the past and probably will use again in the future to record this show or to talk to each other as we record this show, does not work in Safari. Now, at this point, I know that WebRTC works in Safari, which is what Source Connect now is using under the hood to make all that work. I know that works in Safari now. I did not when they first introduced it, but now it does because I can do a Hangout in Safari where I used to not be able to do that. Nope, excuse me, Google Meet.
Yes.
In Safari, where I used to not be able to do that, right? It was just unsupported. Well, they have not bothered yet to update their software to work in Safari. So I don't have a choice but to go to Chrome because it doesn't work in Safari. Does that mean the whole world uses Chrome? Yeah, because you just made me use Chrome.
Yeah.
I'm concerned by that because as a blind person, like Firefox not being completely 100% accessible on the Mac for all these years has literally only given blind people 2 options: use Safari and don't have some stuff work, or use Chrome and sacrifice whatever privacy that you're giving up there. Now, it may not be a huge concern to most people, and I'm not saying don't use Chrome because they're a privacy nightmare, because overall, they're not too bad, and Google tends to kind of tell you what they're going to do and what they're doing. Like, I haven't really heard of anybody but there's this Keystone application. I don't know anything about it, but there's Google Chrome installs crap on the Mac that I don't understand why it's there. Like this little Keystone agent and a little automatic update agent. And occasionally on a fresh install of Mac OS, I have experience where I install Chrome and then the next time I reboot, Chrome automatically opens because it has set itself to automatically open when I log in. Like weird shit like that, I don't appreciate. Are they spying on me? Probably most likely not.
Right.
But don't insert yourself in my system where you don't need to be because you feel like you want to have, hooks into the system to do your own thing. Oh, I just want to update in the background. Let me update when I feel like updating. Maybe I don't want the new version. Maybe I don't want your fix for accessibility that you added in the new version and then acted like it didn't
Just try the latest version.
Just try the latest version, man. Look, I want to try the latest version to 2020 because this version I got right now sucks. I'm just saying. Where's the update?
Right.
That's at the time of recording. So maybe 2021 is better. Maybe that's the upgraded version because it's one number bigger, right? So either it gets better or it gets worse because it's one number bigger.
And I hope it doesn't get worse.
Oh, man, the worst could get bigger, right? At the time we're recording this, vaccinations have started for COVID.
In the U.S.
In the U. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Good deal, Mike. I did not know that. I thought everybody was getting them. Sorry.
Yeah.
But they are starting in the U.S. So, granted, we're recording this on December 14th, 2020, right? So, at the point in time that me and Michael are recording this, we don't know what has already happened that you already know as you're listening to this. So, I hope the best has gone for people with the vaccines and everything is working okay. But if there's a horrible mishap somewhere, we didn't know about it because they just started today.
Yeah, we're not being insensitive to it.
Thank you. That's what I was trying. That's why I brought it up because I thought about it. I didn't want people listening to the show at the time that their publishers and be like, well, man, I can't believe they didn't say anything about that, man. All the people who, whatever the case may be, like we didn't address it. It's because we don't know about it. That's why.
We have hopefully got to more regular publishing, more often publishing schedules for everyone, and we won't be as far behind, but we've got ourselves a buffer window, so we're doing pretty good. We're going to start experimenting with some new technologies Discord in 2021. Demasi doesn't know it yet. Well, he does. He just hasn't got on there yet.
Man, so I downloaded Discord for iOS, and I need to scroll back through messages and tap on your link.
I need to resend you the link because they're only valid for 24 hours.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was waiting until you told me you downloaded it, and then I was going to resend it to you.
Okay, well, I do have it downloaded. I actually just had an update today to version 52 point something.
And iOS has an update today, too, to 14.3. And watchOS has an update to 7.2.
I have not gotten that yet for the watch. I have done the iOS 14.3 update, and I think I'm at the point now that I'm going to wipe my phone and just start over.
Don't forget to do a backup or you're going to lose your streak. Oh.
Right here at this point. I don't have a streak to worry about, man. None whatsoever. Not in Todoist, not in workouts.
Man, you had to bring that up. So Thursday, I'm like, man, I'm doing pretty good. 36 days in my streak for Todoist. Everything's good. And then Friday, I forgot to mark anything off. And my weekends are Saturday and Sunday. If I would have waited one more day and forgot, then it wouldn't have mattered. But yeah, I lost my streak. I was not too thrilled.
Oh man, that is terrible.
And it's nothing. Like it really means absolutely nothing. It has no value. It's just I've been using this
it does. I think it does have a value though. I think it actually does have a value because you're motivated to continue that streak, right? Yeah. So on a day where you may look at your task list and be like, I don't know if I'm doing none of that shit. But it's like, man, you're at 87 days, dude. You almost to 100. You really want to break the streak right now?
Yeah. My longest streak is 85 days or 87 or something like that. So that is my goal, to get over that. And maybe 2021 will be different. And as I told Ramya on today, as of recording December 14th show, I'm going to start journaling more in 2021, starting in 2021. Because if I'm being honest with you, I only remember parts of 2020. Like, there's a lot of the year that I know I did something or I know something happened, but I don't know, like I can't remember it.
So I was thinking about journaling for 2021, listening to Cortex earlier, and they're talking about their theme for the upcoming year, etc. I was going to steal that, and then I thought about, one, we ain't talked about it at all. I don't have anything to really say other than, okay, let's pick us a theme for next year. And I don't even have one. And then secondly, by the time this episode released, it wouldn't really make sense. Yeah. Because it's so out of time.
Well, I'm going to commit to journaling, and I want to try to do daily. Even if it's just putting 5 sentences down, talking about what happened that day. Because one of the reasons that I like Facebook, and I'll admit this, is the this day in history or this memories. That's what they call it, your memories. So I can see 5 years ago, I had Nicholas and Ben were eating candy canes, and it means nothing. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't mean anything. It's a seemingly little thing, just remembering, oh, they were eating candy canes together when we were in Pendleton 5 years ago. But I knew that Nicholas had come down 5 years ago, but I didn't remember any of the things that we were doing. And using my own version, such as day one, is really what I'm looking at for journaling. A combination of day one and drafts. Using that to be able to keep track. Day one will give you this, like, your memories every year. So that's
okay.
That's what I'm going
I was going to ask about that because I was like, do we need to go roll one of those open source social media things so we can get that feature? Because that is a nice feature. Like, and look, like, to be fair, I understand why people use Facebook. Mm-hmm. I do understand the appeal to Facebook, right? Because if I had been using Facebook consistently over the past few years, there would be a lot more stuff up there about my kids. There'd be a lot more pictures of my kids, possibly. So I would get those notifications like, oh, a year ago today, you were getting, trying to put together Lincoln's baby bed or something like,
right.
Well, not a year ago today, but you know what I mean? You would get stuff like that. And like you said, is it valuable to you? Yes, because it does remind you of something that was good. It's just like 2020, right? Like I was listening to Cortex, and Mike was talking about how for them, for him, and probably for a lot of other people, from March to May was like a bloodbath. Like things were horrible for people. And I remember March through May being stressful, being concerning, but I don't remember it being a bloodbath for me financially. Like I remember coming through that quite well.
Right.
We weren't starving. The only thing we had a hard time doing was getting toilet paper.
Yep. And maybe some meat, maybe. I don't know if you guys
I didn't really have that problem.
Yeah. See, but if you were journaling all this year, it would be interesting.
I would actually know.
Take a look at what it really was like then. So, yeah, that's my vision for 2021 is to start a consistent journaling process, even though we're already into it. So hopefully I've started it by the time I start recording this podcast.
Well, we can follow up though. Yes. To be out there, and we'll follow up in February, episode sometime in February to see, where do we how have we done so far? So one thing that I'm considering doing, and journaling might be a thing also, should look at that. I should check out day one. I was thinking about rolling my own little system inside of.
Day one's encrypted, even in transport too. So,
well, I hadn't thought about day one when I was thinking about it. So I was thinking, I guess I'll make a workspace in drafts or something and do a thing. But actually, day one might be the way to go. That would be nice. I could add pictures to the photos and all sorts of things like that.
Yep.
So I'll probably look at that. Another thing I want to do in 2021 is I don't really have a theme because you need to think of a name for a theme, right? But I do want to be more consistent about things. I think if I were going to pick a theme, that would be what I would call it, the year of consistency, maybe. Like I want to be more consistent about things. That includes just like basically like I don't check stuff off in to-doist a lot of times. Like I don't think I checked off that I had done DM65 until like
until we were on the phone talking about it.
Yeah. I should check that off because I am actually done. And it was done. And like you already knew I was done at that point, but I hadn't checked it off, right? Yeah. Like, bad habits like that causes things to slip. So I want to become more consistent with things, and probably committing to trying to start to journal would help with that because number one, I could look back and be like, okay, well, this past week I've actually done quite well because here's some data to prove that, right? I checked off stuff from Todoist, got these things done, and I wrote about the things or whatever was going on in a journal. So like that's probably a good idea.
So to make it fun, there is integrations with different services and web services with day one. So you could set it up to keep a journal entry that marks off all the tasks that you completed within a week. If you want to, if automation makes you explore wanting to journal more, and then of course there's direct integrations from drafts to day one as well. So you won't have to use the day one interface unless you are adding pictures to journal entries.
Because I wonder if I could do a markdown link to an image and then have them pull it in, or at least render it. Like, would they just render the image? They don't necessarily have to pull it into day one. Would they just render the image in day one?
Good call. So yeah, looks like we're playing with journaling this year. So head on over to yourownpay.com/DM65. Let us know what you are going to do more of in 2021 and how that's coming along, because when you're hearing this, we should be a couple of weeks into 2021. And here's to it being a better year than what 2020 was. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Payown, P-A-Y-O-W-N, and he is on Twitter
at Damashe, D-A-M-A-S-H-E.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.